Cole's frozen on my end.
Oh, yeah, he's on my end too. There he is. He's back.
There he is. Sweet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fantasy Blueprint, the final week of the regular season. And due to it being the final week of the regular season, we must revisit videos made in week one. Gabe and I are going to give kind of a recap of our fantasy MVP. And what do we mean by fantasy MVP? We mean players that are consistently outscoring their projections, if that makes sense. So who can you find value this year? Gabe, I'll let you do a couple laps because I think your fantasy MVP actually did pretty well this season.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the season, we just tried to pick a guy that we were going to ride the whole season, pause, as kind of like our, who do we think would outperform their salary the majority of the weeks, and somebody that you can pretty much confidently start every week to get you some points. So my fantasy MVP to start the season was Josh Jacobs. That's who I chose to, kind of carry the load for me. But I will say it was very dim through 6 weeks. He underperformed his projection for 6 weeks, and I was like really getting scared. But then towards the end of the season, he ended up booming or outscoring his projection in, 7 out of the 8 weeks after week 6. And then towards the end of the season, the last 2 weeks, his salary went up really high to like 7,900 to 8,000. So he needed like 24 points, and he's still scoring close to 20. But towards the end of the season, his salary kind of shot up, so that kind of hurt me at the end. But he was really killing it at the end of the season. And I did a little stat. What's the word here? Manipulating to try and figure out, let's get an engineer's perspective here on what we quantify his performances. So if you add up his total projected amount of points from all his salaries each week, it was around 314 points. And he ended the season with 294. So he was below technically for his total at the cumulative amount of points he scored, but he, like I said, he met his projection 7 out of 17 weeks, which is about 44%. Not amazing, but not the worst.
Because I'm about to give you the worst.
Yeah, and then the last thing I did was I took his average salary for the entire season. His average salary is around 6,500, which is like 19.5 points, and his average output was about 18.3. So he was 1 point below his, average salary projection. So he was right on it. He didn't outperform it. He didn't underscore me. He didn't screw me. But he was a good player. He was a good MVP. If you wanted to pick him, he would have paid out for you or been a good player for you most of the weeks. So, Britton, who was your fantasy MVP?
Yeah, I was about to say, you don't really need any stats, any breakdown other than they just sucked. My fantasy MVP to start the season, and I've never been so wrong in my life, would be Dalton Kincaid, ladies and gentlemen. I thought this was going to be him and Josh Allen show this year with limited receivers, and boy, was I wrong. He had about 400 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. So I feel like an idiot, but hey, you win some, you lose some, you learn, and you move on. So what do we learn? Actually, Cole, this is probably the first time you've heard Dalton Kincaid being my fantasy MVP. Would you care to interject or say anything?
Yeah.
Sucks.
Cancel the show for next year. I'll tell you what. I can tell you one thing. One thing positive about that is, it can't get any worse, and it's only up from here with the next guy that you pick.
Brendan, I'm not going to let you take this one fully. I'm not going to let you take all the blame for this one because there was probably about 40 professional analysts that get paid for this that would have been like, it's a great pick. So it didn't work out, unfortunately. He was hurt for a little bit of the season too.
Yeah.
But you definitely didn't just go against the grain picking that one and take a chance. That he was a pretty safe pick to start the season, I feel like.
Should have gone against the grain and picked Baker Mayfield, but I got too scared. Went Dalton Kincaid, blew up my face.
He took the safe route, but sometimes taking the path less traveled is the right one. That's what they say.
This is a good segue to the next segment. What paths are we traveling this week, boys, for the last week of the fantasy season? There's so many dudes sitting, so many dudes randomly playing. Incentives are on the table. I feel like this has probably been the hardest week that we've had to analyze in all the 18 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
And the scary thing is, we haven't done that great before this, and now it's getting even harder. So we're gonna have to dig deep here, figure out some diamonds in the rough, and try to make a run at this last week before the playoffs. And just kind of, if you're listening to this, we will do some playoffs, especially early on. As we get closer, maybe what's the captain showdown? We may do some showdowns as we get to the Super Bowl and stuff, but just kind of stay tuned. We're going to dive into this week, though. Gabe, you want to lead us?
Yeah.
Somehow down this road with quarterbacks to start. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like you said, a lot of opt-outs this week, so you're going to have to check the inactive list before you do anything. But I think we'll start off here in San Francisco, and Josh Dobbs is getting the start for the 49ers at $4,000. That's about 12 points, and I think he's a good play against Arizona with Garindo, and then you got Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. George Kittle's been limited in practice, but I do think he'll play. So he's got a decent set of weapons around him. No Deebo Samuel, he's out, but I mean, what are you really getting there, to be honest with you? I like Josh Dobbs, Mr. Alopecia. Shout out to all the people with alopecia, you know. And then Geno Smith at 5,500. This is another one of those guys that you need to keep an eye on because he's got some incentives in his contract. This is incentive week as also as it is some opt-outs and sitting outs, but needs 186 pass yards to get $2 million. What I wouldn't do for $2 million. And also he needs a win this week to earn another $2 million. So potentially $4 million on the line here for Geno Smith, 186 yards and a win. So I think he's a great play this week, and they're going to try to score some points against the Rams, who are completely sitting everyone on their offense pretty much. So shouldn't be very competitive this weekend for that game. Another guy, Baker Mayfield, is 7,000. His salaries continue to go up, but yeah, he's trying to finish top 10 in yards per attempt to get a $500K bonus. So I expect him to, if he does pass it, he's going to pass it down the field. And then some foreshadowing. One of his receivers is also trying to get one of his incentives met. So definitely want to keep an eye on that. But those are some of the quarterbacks I got an eye on. But this last one, I'll mention briefly just Russell Wilson against Cincinnati. They're trying to win. They're trying to win the division. I'll let Britton touch on that. But Michael Penix, 5,400 against the Panthers. Do we trust Michael Penix? In Penix, do we trust? Because no, you don't trust Penix. He had a good ending to that game last week against the Commanders. So not really much there. I think they're fighting for a playoff spot in the division with Tampa, so they're definitely trying to win. Just kind of depends how much you trust him against. If Bijan Robinson gets going and gets cooking, what's the ceiling for Michael Penix? But what do you guys have?
Cole, what you got?
Well, I'll tell you what, that Josh Dobbs pick's pretty hairy. I got more faith in Josh Dobbs than he had, or let me see if I can phrase this correctly. Josh Dobbs has more hair on his body than I have faith on him performing pretty good. No, but for my guys, I'm going completely contract incentive and possible big game clinching playoff scenario heavy this week. Kyler Murray's a guy that people have kind of overlooked. He's 6,000 salary. He's had above 20 points in his last two starts. Has an incentive to earn $750,000 if he can rush for 50 plus and score one rushing touchdown. So I don't know about you guys, but you can buy a lot of Call of Duty points with $750,000. You might be able to. You might be able to afford the new skins that they're releasing, and you might be able to buy a whole new computer and maybe a new headset. But we might be getting a little expensive there with the headset. But that's one guy I've got circled, and then Geno Smith. I think he's going to be circled by everybody this week. 5,500. Rams defense, mediocre, probably going to be ended up sitting out. Yeah, like Gabe was saying, needs 187 passing yards to hit his incentive. So he's going to be playing the full game probably to try and make that money. So those are my two guys I'm rolling with at QB.
Perfect. I've got 3 dudes on my list. Josh Dobbs was one of them at 4,000. It's hard, like Gabe said it over and over again, hard to find a starting quarterback at $4,000. So when you get that opportunity, you got to throw him in one lineup. So I've got Josh Dobbs on there. I've got Joe Burrow fighting for his life against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Torched him last time they played it. He had 25.3 fantasy points. And it's just do or die for them. They got to win and get lucky with some losses. My whole strategy for this week is do or die games or contract incentives. For the most part, a few outliers, but Joe Burrow with his life on the line right here, I could see him balling out this week. So at 7,500 is high, but I think this could be one of those games where he just kind of shows that he is the man. He's got the dog in him. So I like Joe Burrow in that spot. And then my final pick, Gabe touched on a little bit earlier, but I really like Russell Wilson against Cincinnati's defense. And he's only at 5,300, which is really, really cheap with Pickens coming back. And that's been without Pickens, their offense has been bad. But with Pickens and Russell Wilson together, it's been a pretty substantial offense. So I think this is going to be a good week for them, especially against Cincinnati's defense that's getting shredded. They're probably the worst defense in the NFL. They can't stop anybody. But last time Russell Wilson played Cincinnati, he had 30.9 points in fantasy. So I'm leaning heavy on Russell Wilson, maybe a foreshadow for my core four as we look forward to kind of predicting that, looking at that. But let's jump into receivers. Cole, we'll start with you. Where do you see value this week at receiver?
I'm starting off with the obvious pick, Mike Evans at 8,000 salary.
Yep.
Very expensive, but he's got a chance going against the Saints defense without Chris Godwin. And they also, Saints defense got rid of Lattimore. He's kind of been like the boogeyman for Mike Evans. They got rid of him. So he's got a huge incentive this week. He hits his incentive, or both of his incentives, which I think it's 5 catches for how many yards, Gabe?
85.
80, yeah. He gets $3 million if he hits his incentive. So a report's already came out. Baker's already been asked about it. Baker said he wants it more than Mike Evans does for him. So I'm expecting a huge day from both of them. Second guy I'm going with is Drake London, 6,500. A must-win game for the Falcons, and he had 20 last game. I feel like him and Penix's connection is going to improve. This is probably going to end up being their last game of the year, but I definitely could see them slinging it. They have to win this game to give themselves a chance in the playoffs. I think the Saints would have to beat the Bucs to even give them a chance. So they definitely have to win. So I feel like they're going to leave it all on the field this week, and those are my 2 picks for wide receiver.
I like it. Gabe, what you got?
Yeah, so I got a few, but I'll start kind of in the incentive area like Cole did. Cortland Sutton, 6,400 against Kansas City. Kansas City's resting a lot of their starters. Needs 82 yards to earn $500K. It's a good amount of money. I feel like he'll do that pretty easily, but kind of get worried sometimes when there's not a touchdown incentive attached to it. If Denver starts blowing Kansas City out, since they rested everybody, do they pull some of the starters? But I don't necessarily see Denver doing that. But one of the other ones, you got George Pickens, 6,600 against Cincinnati's defense. Baby. If you want to go a little Russell Wilson stack, I call him Mr. Crash Out, George Pickens. Always a chance he gets ejected from that game.
I was about to say, the only thing about him is he may be gone in the first quarter.
It's possible, but hope that he puts his pride to the side. And then with no Deebo Samuel, and you got Josh Dobbs at quarterback. Ricky Pearsall had a really good game last week at 4,100. Could potentially see him having another good game with Deebo out. I was thinking about going Tyreek. I think he had 9 targets last week and 20 points, but for some reason I just can't trust Tyler Huntley. I just can't do it.
Can't trust Snoop.
Yeah, I can't trust him. And then Joe Flacco is starting for the Colts. We didn't mention him, but Anthony Richardson's out. So if you like some of those Indianapolis receivers, you're gonna have to throw a dart at one of them because they're all very similar priced, and typically one of them goes off, and it's never the same, the same guy.
And Downs screwed me last week. Gosh dang it, man! He
me
absolutely
too. So
tanked my lineups, dude.
It makes me want to take Michael Pittman this week because of how good he did last week, but I just know if I do it, that Josh Downs is gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
So
that's a no touchy for me, boys.
I know.
I'll tell you what, that 49ers defense should be pretty improved with Deebo Samuel sitting out this week.
Oh God!
You mean the offense?
What did I say? Defense? Yeah.
Defense, offense.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, my value, I got 3. I'll just hit them real quick. Cortland Sutton, you already talked about his incentives. He's my guy this year. Really like him a lot. 6,400. I expect him to have a big game. Love him. That's all I got to say on him. Surprise pick. Jamison Williams at 6,200 versus Minnesota 32nd to receivers in fantasy. Last 2 weeks for JMO, 29, 24.5. I think the big thing is this game will, if it stays competitive, it matters because whoever wins gets the 1 seed. So I really like Jamison Williams in the spot. I think there's some good matchups for him. And at 6,200, the way he's been playing, I could see that he's just got such a high ceiling because he's got the deep ball threat. So love Jamison Williams this week in the matchup there. And then number 3 is I've got Jalen McMillan at 5,100 versus New Orleans. New Orleans is completely just shattered. There's nothing left. They have nothing to play for. They got guys out of the lineup everywhere. But the last 4 games for Jalen McMillan, 21.9, 18.5, 16.7, 23. So he's been hot lately. Mm-hmm. A lot of that is touchdown volume, but he's been playing better. He's getting more targets. So I really like Jalen McMillan this week against the New Orleans team that's completely dead. So those are my 3 kind of targets, 3 values this week at receiver. Gabe, hit us with the running backs for this week. What you got?
Yeah. Just to start out with a guy, this is not an incentive-based play, but it kind of is. So Zach Charbonnet is now the lead back in Seattle at 6,700 with Kenneth Walker on the IR. And like I said, with Geno Smith having to meet his passing yards incentive, kind of makes me think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, which could potentially lead to Zach Charbonnet getting a lot of catches. And we love running backs that can also get catches and rush yards on the ground. So that's a potential stack, honestly, Geno and Zach Charbonnet if he catches a few passes. And then Isaac Guerrero, 5,900 for San Francisco against Arizona. Kind of a weird spot for him to be in, that cheap.
Yeah.
Below 6,000. It pretty much is 6,000. 5,900 is it's not much of a discount, but I still think that's a low salary for a guy that's in a super run heavy offense against a decent mediocre defense in Arizona. And then you got to watch these injuries this week because for Arizona, James Conner and their 2 top backups are out. So Michael Carter getting the start for them, 4,700. That's a name I haven't heard in about 2 years. He was at the Jets for a while, and the Jets cut him, and that's the last time I heard from him. And then Saquon is out this week. Philadelphia is resting a lot of their starters. I don't know if their offensive line is going to be playing this week, but they are playing the Giants. So, I mean, who cares? Could be the backup offensive line. Could probably push them around. Sure. Kenneth Gainwell, 5,600 is a good play. And then the only incentive running back that I really trust this week is Tony Pollard. He needs 83 rush yards for a 250K bonus and 2 rushing touchdowns. And they're facing Houston, who has already clinched a spot in the playoffs and can't really adjust their position. So D'Amico Ryan said they are going to play some of their starters. I don't really see the point, and I don't really understand why they play the whole game if they do. So I could see a big second half for Tony Pollard if the starters go out for Houston in the second half to preserve him for the playoffs, and that's when he could probably meet some of those touchdowns and rushing yards incentive in the second half. What do you guys have?
Cole, I'll let you go.
All right. Well, I've got one guy who's got an incentive thing that he might need to hit, and then I have another guy like Gabe was saying. He's also got an incentive thing going on, but they both have a big game coming up, or one of them does. J.K. Dobbins for the Chargers.
Hmm.
We got to pay attention to the game on Saturday. The Chargers have a wild card spot locked up already, but they can lock up the fifth seed with a
Yeah.
Steelers loss.
But
So they're going to be playing to win if the game on Saturday goes their direction. Gus Edwards is out. He's hurt. So J.K. Dobbins is 100% going to be the lead back in that game.
yeah.
And then the second guy, just like Gabe was saying, is Tony Pollard. Tajay Spears hurt. Incentives, he could make $450,000. So those are my two guys I've got picked.
Yeah, I didn't mention
like
this guy, but Kyron Williams is out for the Rams, and Blake Corum is at 5,600. Is that still yours written? Did I just snipe you?
Nah,
No?
you're good, brother.
Okay.
I've just been thinking about him.
And Sean McVay said he's really, really excited to see what he can do with a full workload. So get excited if you're an LA Rams fan. You get to see your potential future running back if Kyron Williams chases a bag somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. They probably do want to see what they got with him. Good point.
Yeah.
I won't spend too much time on running backs here. I have a mix of both of you guys. The top back being J.K. Dobbins for me at 6,300. Like Cole said, Gus Edwards is out. They're playing against a crappy Las Vegas team without Max Crosby. They're actually, this is a random weird stat that I found today. They're the 28th worst tackling defense in the league. So I like J.K. Dobbins in this matchup. I think he needs 58 yards for the 150K incentive. So could really see him having a big game, especially as they're still trying to fight for that fifth spot in the wild card. So I like J.K. Dobbins there. I put Michael Carter down and Kenneth Gainwell. I think we've done this before this year where you take a backup and they're splitting carries or they don't use them at all. So it's a risk with Michael Carter and Kenneth Gainwell, but they're still cheap. I mean, 4,700 for Michael Carter and 5,600 for Kenny G. So I think they're good options on, I mean, nothing really to play for, but playing against eliminated teams. So I don't know. I could see that going well, but I think most of my lineups will revolve around J.K. Dobbins this week for sure.
You're going to have to this week you're going to have a lot of variations of lineups this week.
No doubt.
I just was looking at the running backs, and then you have Rico Dowdle below 6,000, Brian Robinson against Dallas at 6,000. There's just so many running backs this week with either a good matchup or in a good spot due to injuries or people sitting out. That there's no way to pick out. You're going to have to pick one of those or three of those guys probably to hope to have a good game. And there's not like a for sure option, I feel like, this week. So pick the guy you're most confident in, and try and hit that dart throw, and hopefully he's one of the 15 this week that goes off.
Oh man, well, let's go. Let's dive into tight ends. I'll start us. So I just kind of highlighted two for us this week, but Pat Freiermuth versus Cincinnati. Cincinnati, like I said, is probably one of the worst defenses in the league. I've already talked about Russell Wilson using Pat Freiermuth as your stack potentially if you go the Russell Wilson route. He had 18 fantasy points against Cincinnati last time they played. And Pittsburgh's got something to play for. They win, they stay ahead of the Chargers. So I like Pat Freiermuth at 3,900 this week. And then the second guy is Sam Laporta at 4,700. Last three games, he's at 21.1, 14.3, and 18.4. So he's trending in the right direction. He had a slow start to the season, but he's definitely trending in the right direction. When you can get a tight end for under 5,000 that's putting up that kind of numbers, that's a solid pick. I think he's got a high ceiling, or a low floor, sorry. So I like Sam Laporta this week against Minnesota at 4,700. What you guys got?
Cole, start it, baby. Go ahead.
I'll tell you what, I like that Sam Laporta pick. I didn't look into that. Y'all are gonna roast me for this one. It's deserved. But I'm willing to take the shot. I think it's a breakout. Everybody's gonna see the potential finally. Kyle Pitts.
Oh
Oh
gosh,
no.
no, dude. Hey,
Kyle Pitts.
I will say this: the last
How
time he
many
did something like
times?
this, the last time Cole did something like this, and he said Sam Darnold and our faces dropped, he was
Yeah,
completely right. So maybe
completely.
you're the kiss of luck for old Kyle.
I
I've
put
said
this
that for
down in my
four
notes. I
weeks in
put
a row.
down. I put down in my notes. I said the real plum pick is Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Well, Carolina's 29th against tight ends. Penix looked for him in the red zone. Finally got him a touchdown.
Hmm.
He had a kind of a better game this past two games. And the next guy I've got circled here is Chiga Okonkwo at 3,800. His last three games, he's at 13, 19, and 10. Now, with the news that Will Levis is starting, I'll probably go back and change that and probably put him on the no-touch list. I'll put every Titans player on the no-touch list that's on the offensive side of the ball now until Will Levis can show me that he can do something on the field. Um, and then the last guy, kind of a surprise with Travis Kelce out, Noah Gray. Uh, I'm interested to see what he can do. He always has these games where you're like watching him and he just goes off for like 120 yards and three touchdowns. It seems like, or 20 yards and three touchdowns. It just always happens where it's like, who picks Noah Gray? Well, this week I'm going to try and pick Noah Gray and hopefully get paid off on it. But I doubt it. But those are my tight end picks.
Hey, Gabe, we didn't talk about this earlier. Your boy's back, baby. Starting. Walk it to him, Wentz, baby.
Man, yeah, no touch, no touch.
Oh, dude,
Do
he's going to come
not
in and
want
sling
it.
that thing, man. He's got
Oh,
no
no
pressure on him.
doubt. No doubt. He's going to let it rip.
Oh, yeah, pass.
Yes, he
Payne
will. Yes,
Durham.
he will pass.
No, Payne Durham. Let's move on. Payne Durham, 3,200. Okay, Otten was potentially coming back this week, but he's listed as doubtful, so he's not. Like I said, Baker Mayfield's going to be throwing in a lot this week to try and meet some incentives. So Durham had a touchdown last week, and I think he had 5 catches the week before.
Yep.
He's outperformed his salary projection, and in the last 2 weeks he's been starting. And they're like a 3,200. You need about 6.6, or not 6.6. You need about 9.6 points, and he's outscored that 2 weeks in a row. Jake Ferguson, 3,900. He really bit me last week. He did not play well, but I still have confidence in the volume attack passing for Dallas, especially if they get down to Washington, if Washington has anything to play for, or if they rest their starters. So I kind of like that. And Cole actually did have Kyle Pitts on this on my list here, but I was not going to be confident enough to throw him out there and say he's going to break out. But I was going to mention that he had a touchdown last week, and I was like, well, maybe. But I've said that every single week. Like, maybe this is Kyle Pitts' week. Maybe he'll finally break out.
Dude, we've been saying this every week for 4 years.
For 4 years,
Kyle
yeah.
Pitts.
It's so hard. We saw him play so well in college, and he's just a freak. He is literally a freak. I think he is the most intimidating tight end in the league. Honestly, like if
I
you're a
definitely think
cornerback
he's
and
probably the
you're
most athletically gifted tight end in the league by
yeah, like
far.
you line up in
Probably
front of
between
Kyle Pitts and anybody else, you're gonna be like, holy crap, this dude looks insane. And for some reason, he just can't get it going. I don't know what it is, but
It
yeah,
could be that he's not good. Question mark.
I don't think
Just
that's
kidding.
good. Travis Kelce's out here still catching passes with a freaking beer belly, so I'm not,
That's
I'm
true.
not giving up on Kyle Pitts yet.
True.
Maybe Penix is what he needed. Maybe Penix, like I said, will get him rolling. He scored a touchdown last week. It'll look a little more trust. Maybe start drawing up some plays for him. I'm not gonna touch him. I'm gonna let Cole have this one. You start him, Cole. Give him all the luck. I know we're done with tight ends, so I just wanted to retouch on a couple more incentive plays. So Houston playing against the Titans. Joe Mixon needs 107 yards to get his bonus. Houston, like I said, has nothing to play for to move their seeding. So I do expect Joe Mixon to play and try to get 100 yards to get that bonus. Why not? I know it could potentially be risky for an injury headed into the postseason, but it sounds like D'Amico Ryans is already bullish enough to start his players for at least a half. So why would he not let Joe Mixon get 100 yards and then maybe pull him? And then I had one more, but I can't remember who it was. But I will talk about this guy. Brian Thomas is on the verge of like elite fantasy receiver right
really
now.
Good.
His last 3 weeks, 35, 31, and 24.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's been
he has
awesome.
absolutely killed it against
with Mac Jones as a quarterback.
With Mac Jones,
Well, Mac Jones is starting to sling it around again. He's got confidence. I watched one of his games. He's running like he's back at Alabama. I mean, he's running and hitting people on the sideline and dancing and doing all that. Confidence is a big thing, dude. I mean, that's a big thing in the NFL. You saw what Bryce Young did whenever he got his confidence back a little bit. Now he's turned it on. You know, it's just giving these guys a couple weeks to get their feet underneath them. Because just imagine if you're in that situation where you're holding a clipboard all year, and all of a sudden, like, you're just coming in cold, and the coach looks at you, he's like, "Mac, you're in.
Save us."
Trevor just got concussed for the 6th time. Get in there.
I mean, there's nobody there commanding targets for the Jaguars. Evan Ingram's out, Kirk's out, Gabe Davis is out. So it is literally the Brian Thomas show, and he's performing admirably.
He's cooking.
So I do like that. Britton, take it away for a second. I'm gonna try to find this last incentive player that I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a weird one because they've already said the rest of these starters in Kansas City, but DeAndre Hopkins needs like 9 catches and 140 yards.
That's too much.
To get his bonus. That is a long shot.
I'll pay him myself if he doesn't.
I'll be dang if Parker go out there and just start slinging it, and it's the DeAndre Hopkins show. I mean, who knows? I doubt it, but
there is a 0% chance of that. Actually, it's not 0. It's not 0.
I'll give it a 1%.
I'll give it a 0.9. What's the percentage of what's the antibacterial hand soap where it has 99.99999%? That's the chances of it not happening in my eyes. He's got the hand sanitizer percentage this week.
The hand sanitizer percentage.
But hey, this is what I'll say: if he isn't inactive, if he is playing,
he's gonna get a shot.
I'll say if he is playing, why would they not try? If he is playing, so it's just things to think about. Make sure you check the incentives and inactives, because there's a couple more players that real long shot incentives, but if they're active, why are they active if everybody else isn't?
Yeah, I'm with you.
So
I'm with you.
Take a look at that.
Yeah, and that's a good point talking about these incentives. If you haven't already, check out our TikTok video for this week. Gabe did a great job of putting together basically a list of incentivized players for this week. So definitely take a look at that and give us a follow, because he did a great job of laying that out to kind of give us a good peek behind the curtain as to what players need and how that can benefit us in our daily fantasy lineups this week. But let's kind of shift gears to Kofo. Gabriel?
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
All right. Screw you, Cole. I'm going Josh Dobbs, 4,000. Josh Dobbs, 4,000.
Knew that was coming.
And then I'm going Jake Ferguson, 3,900. Back-to-back week. Started him last week. Completely bit me over a barrel. Showed me the 50 states. But I'm going back to him again. And then my 2 running backs that if I'm going to throw a dart, I'm going Zach Charbonnet, 6,700 against the Rams in a game that they really do need to win for Geno Smith. And then Isaac Guerrero against Arizona, 5,900. I got confident in those guys. They're 3-down backs. They'll be on the field for all 3 downs, catching passes and getting some runs. So that's my core 4.
I like it. Cole, what you got?
Yeah, I'm going Tanner McKee, going De'Ami Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding. I'm
Lord.
going Kyler Murray. I'm going Tony Pollard, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London. I'm staying high.
Kyle
Two
Pitts
Falcons
and Drake
guys.
London. That is a bold strategy, Cotton. But the fortune favors the bold, they say.
That's true.
We'll see.
Well, here's my core four for this week. Number 1, Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson, 5,300. Number 2, like the incentive talk for J.K. Dobbins at 6,300. Number 3, my boy, he's been my guy all season long, Cortland Sutton, 6,400 with some incentives on the line. And then last, Sam Laporta.
I like this, guys. I like that we all have some different players because we've kind of had some parity in recent weeks with all the value plays, and I don't think we have a single identical
guy. We have any overlap at all.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of telling of this week. It is an absolute crapshoot. There's no guy that's like, hey, you got to hammer this dude. So
except for Josh,
it's going to look different across the board. And like you said, you want to just kind of spread out your lineups. Yeah, I see what you're doing there. Spread out your lineups and try to go with different guys throughout. So, pause. All right,
Speaking of spreading it out, Will Levis has a pretty big incentive this week. He has a pretty big incentive this week. I don't know if y'all heard about this yet.
Gosh.
It's called his job. He's playing for his job this week.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. It's too late for my boy Will Levis.
They said that both quarterbacks will play. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah, I don't think he'll play the whole game. So I mean, maybe it will be like a tryout for both of them to see who they want to keep as the backup next year when they draft Cam Ward. That's probably what they're auditioning for, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a wrap, boys. But here's my favorite segment. The plum segment. Newly added. We've done it 3 weeks, I guess 2 real weeks, and then I texted you guys behind the scenes for a 3rd week. So I'll start us since this is my favorite segment of the week. I've got 2. And the first one, when I say it, you're going to be like, plum pick, are you kidding me? This dude's a freaking stud. Here's why I'm saying it's a plum pick, because I'm talking 40 points or higher for this guy. Give me Justin Jefferson, plum pick. I'm talking high against Minnesota.
Okay.
I'm feeling 35 plus for Justin Jefferson. And then the real plum pick, though, that's not a star, Blake Corum, 5,600.
Okay. All right.
I got a feeling, boys, he's getting a little tryout for next year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Pass it over to Cole. Cole, do you have a plum pick this week?
I'm pretty good with my plum picks, man. I've got some plums this week. But my last plum pick I had was Jalen Tolbert, and I remember him scoring a touchdown the one time we did this, or the last time that I did this. So this week I'm going to see if I can strike gold with somebody else. Give me Juju Smith-Schuster at 3,700. I'm expecting a big week this week. Kansas City receiver sitting out. He's still got talent. Believe me, there's still an engine in that Ferrari. I wouldn't call it a Ferrari anymore. There's still an engine in that
that Prius.
Camry.
That dependable that Honda Accord.
Yeah, that's right.
So maybe he has some left in the tank still. I'm assuming he'll play the whole game. He's 3,700. Why not see if he can rekindle that magic? Another guy I would consider for a plum pick, South Alabama Jag, put your J's up, Tanner McKee. Tanner McKee, baby. The guy you can look out for. I think he used to be a Jag. I'm not sure if he graduated from there. I'm pretty sure he did.
He touched the field at one point.
Yeah, but those are my 2 plum pick guys to keep an eye on.
I'm not gonna lie, those are some pretty bold plum picks. I'm freaking loving it. I might have to put a Juju Smith-Schuster in one of my lineups. You got me feeling it now.
I was looking at another guy. De'Ami Brown's another guy I was looking at for a possible plum pick at like 3,000. I think 3,600. But that's a little more risky. I don't think he'd be fantastic. But
Gabe, we'll pass off the final plum pick to you, brother. What you got?
All right. I got one. I'm going DK Metcalf,
Oh, dude, I love it.
5,600.
Gosh, I love it, man.
Seattle against the Rams.
I
Big
love it.
play threat, and Jigba's been, and Jigba's the new number one. He's definitely overtaken Jackson Smith and DK Metcalf and Jigba has. So, just really hoping for a DK Metcalf, one of those low ownership, everybody's high on a Jigba with Gino trying to meet his incentives.
Yeah.
DK Metcalf breaks loose for maybe a long
just give me
touchdown,
one
maybe
bomb,
two.
like 50 yards in a tub would be awesome.
Maybe 1 or 2 bombs for DK Metcalf in a game that they're trying to win.
Let Papa
That's
Gino
my
cook.
that's my plum pick. I don't really have a second one. But like Cole said, but those Kansas City receivers, I like Juju Smith-Schuster down there. But they have three guys that are probably get some heavy run. Justin Ross, Nicholas Rimgio. They just signed an active roster. And then there was one more.
Mecole Hardman, maybe?
No, not Mecole Hardman. Tyquan Thornton. He just came from the Patriots, right? Tyquan Thornton, wasn't he at the Patriots recently? Anyway, regardless, the Chiefs signed him. But I don't know if they're going to upgrade him to active roster. But they're all 3,000 salaries, so it's against Denver. Don't expect them to win, but somebody's got to catch passes there from Carson Wentz if it's not Hopkins and Worthy. So
let me get in front of this real quick. Tanner McKee never played at South Alabama. I don't know what I was thinking. Somebody did, though, that I heard of the other day that was playing for the Eagles. I just don't remember who. Just want to put that out there before I get blasted.
Yeah, you're good. All 11 of our followers are going to blast you.
I think you're
good. No, you're good. All right, let's move on to kind of our optimal lineups this week. As always, if you're following, just stay tuned to the TikTok channel. We'll have our...
Hey, Britton.
Yep.
Cole, how dare you not add Kyle Pitts to your plum pick segment? How dare you? How dare you not put Kyle Pitts in the plum pick as a plum pick?
I said he was the real plum pick originally when I picked the tight end.
You did, but he's shown you nothing to be able to have start him with confidence. So it takes some dadgum plums to talk about him as a breakout candidate. Big ones.
Big ones.
Not really. I mean, it really shouldn't.
Buddy, he's had some weeks where we've tied in fantasy output, so it takes some plums.
I think what I've heard is he's lazy. I think I've heard he's slow out of his routes and his footwork's bad. Now, this is just Twitter. This is Twitter analysts. So
couch analysts.
Yeah, these are people that are watching from the couch. But there's no excuse for him to be this bad forever. He's got to turn it on at some point. Why not do it on week 18?
Yeah. He just ain't got the dog in him.
Let's see how old he is. Move on, and I'm going to check see if he's got to be like 25, 26, something like that.
Yeah, probably.
That's 26. Who I was thinking. I was thinking of Carter Bradley, not Tanner McKee. Carter Bradley for the Raiders is who I was thinking of.
Kyle Pitts is 6 years younger than me. He's 24 years old. He's still prime,
Makes me feel old. But moving on. Optimal lineups. Check the TikTok channel for Gabe's secret sauce, the formula for our optimal lineups this week. And then we're about to give you our optimal lineups without the AI. So, Cole, start us off. Optimal lineup, final regular season week. What you got?
All right, boys, here we go. Geno Smith is starting off at quarterback. Tony Pollard, J.K. Dobbins, Mike Evans, Drake London, Brian Thomas Jr., Kyle Pitts, Juju Smith-Schuster, and the Cowboys defense.
Let's go. I like it. Gabriel?
All right. Josh Dobbs, Isaac Giriendo, Tony P., Mike Evans, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cortland Sutton, Jake Ferguson, Blake Corum, Chicago Bears against Green Bay defense.
I like that. I'm stealing it. I'm altering my lineup in the next few minutes.
Was DK in that lineup, or did I miss that?
No, he was not in that lineup. I'm gonna add a lineup with Geno and DK. Don't worry, they'll be
Yeah.
that stack somewhere. But this is the one I'm rolling out. I wanted to put Charbonnet in, but couldn't really put him in there.
Yeah.
Because he was kind of one of the higher salary running backs, and
Yeah.
I like Amon-Ra St. Brown against Minnesota. I know you like Jameson, but I'll never forgive myself if I start Jameson Williams over Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. That's why he's not in my optimal lineup.
Mike Evans is more expensive than Amon-Ra St. Brown, believe it or not.
Really? Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
My lineup: Russell Wilson, J.K. Dobbins, Blake Corum, Cortland Sutton, Justin Jefferson, D.K. Metcalf, Sam Laporta, Michael Carter at 4,700.
Question mark.
Seahawks defense 2,900. Michael Carter makes me a little nervous, boys. Or whatever his actual name. Whatever his actual name is. But
we get some work in the past game he's literally the only running back they have right now. So he's gonna be on the field for 98% of the snaps, which is always something you can trust.
Yeah. So we'll do a quick no touchy segment here, but anything you like this week, any thoughts, obviously there's a lot of concerns this week. This could go very poorly, but any last kind of thoughts or anything like that?
I am completely out and no touching any Saints player against Tampa this weekend. A lot of injuries. Kendre Miller with a concussion. Alvin Kamara probably not going to play. Why would Chris Olave play? There's really no point. Derek Carr, same situation. He's questionable. Saints are an absolute disaster, much like my Tennessee Titans. Sorry, Cole, but you're both in the same boat. You're both sinking. You're both Titanicing, trying to get that first overall pick. But yeah, I'm heavy out on the Saints players, but also I'm not. The Jets running back room is just weird.
Yeah.
With 3 running backs, they're kind of mixing in and out. I don't necessarily like the matchup against the Dolphins. Sneakily, the Dolphins have had a really good year on defense. Top 15, top 10 in some stats. So it's a weird situation in New York for the Jets. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Cole, no touchy?
Not that I know of, man. Not that I can think of. You already know who's on my no touch list forever. I don't know if we need to go down that lane again, but I'm willing to give y'all a red if y'all want one. But
you got to touch him this week, buddy. He'll be touching himself. Pause.
And I don't have a no touch that's glaring right now for me.
Yeah, I feel like the big ones for me are just the obvious ones. I think that the obvious being like the Buffalo Bills, where Josh Allen may play a quarter, he may play a half. I'm going to try to stay away from Bills starters more than likely this week, because the thing is, you just really don't know how long they're going to play. For a lot of these teams, you just don't. You're taking a guess and hoping you're right. So.
Speaking of that, I'm out on Houston players besides Joe Mixon. That's the only guy I could trust since he's trying to get that 100-yard incentive. Everybody else, I'm out on.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of that this week. We're just going to have to pay attention. But kind of as we wrap, pay attention to the TikTok channel. We've given you optimal lineups, both through Gabe's model and our own optimal lineups, but those may change last minute. So stay tuned to the TikTok channel for that update. It's going to be a crapshoot this weekend, boys, but buckle up. Here we go, baby. Let's go make some bread. Here we go.
Hey, this is one of the weeks where you can really separate yourself because there's a lot of plays, there's a lot of injuries, a lot of sitting out. There will be people who don't check the news and will start those players that are probably not going to play. So I feel like there's an advantage we can have to being prepared for some of this stuff and making sure you check Twitter. It's one of the most valuable resources for information in terms of who's sitting out, who's playing, and things like that. So try and get ahead of it. That's the only thing we can do.
No doubt. Well, good luck in the final regular season week. We'll see you next week for a playoff edition of the Fantasy Blueprint. Good luck, guys. See you next week.